7 capital raising strategies to help you gain the right investors. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Futurist Mindset Show. My name is Tessa, and I'm going to introduce you to your host, Reagan Rodriguez. Reagan is a futurist who teaches stratosphere wealthy legacy families how to become impact investors. Hello, Reagan. How are you?
Well, I'm doing better than I deserve.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
excited to talk to you today. I always learn something every time we go through a show, but
Yeah.
strategies to help you gain the right investors. I know money is one of the biggest things that businesses need to have, but to get those investors and how 7 capital raising strategies to do that. So I will hand it over to you to run with today.
Yeah. I thought I would just do something kind of simple. I know I've had quite a bit of questions that came up from last week's, and even the one where we had Frank Reagan. So both when Brent Long's, I had quite a bit of people that looked at it and asked me, or, watched that show and asked me some questions specifically related to, one of them was somebody that was looking at an exit strategy for his company, and the other was somebody that was looking to want to buy an existing business. So both of those people asked me just what my advice was, and I thought this would be appropriate. So here's the first thing I'm going to recommend. Develop a crystal clear one-liner, right? That's pretty simple, meaning here's what I really think on that. It's critical and it costs nothing, right? Most people who are new to raising capital, to the whole acquisition space, do not have this in place. Another thing that I would recommend is identify maybe your strategic choke points, that are strategic and prevent you from getting, easily displaced and reduce your cost, or it might provide you with extra momentum. So, and by the way, if you're saying, I don't know what that is, what are choke points?
I was going to ask, actually.
Yeah. Actually, I'll tell you where I got that from. You may want to read the book, Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. It's a book by a gentleman named Vern. I think his last name is like Harnish. And he goes into the choke points. It's explained better than I could. But again, what you're doing is you're being strategic and you are preventing from getting easily displaced, right? And that's going to reduce, the costs. So let me get to the next one. Number 3 is develop your investor avatar. So think about what types of investors that you want, right? Think about this. Which type of investors do you want your current offering to target? And who is maybe predisposed to say yes to you? Because think about this. An investor is going to say yes to moving forward with people it's going to seem obvious, that they trust. Industries they know, or assets, companies maybe that are local to them, where they might travel to, right? Or where they might vacation. I sense you maybe want to mention a comment or say something, Tessa.
No, I love that you would create an investor avatar, because we do that in marketing. You can't create messaging that doesn't attract the right people if you don't know who you're attracting. So I do love that you're actually taking into consideration what industries they know, because it's easier. So for you with your eco projects, that they already have an interest in eco projects, eco-friendly projects, or something to that extent. Sustainability, right? For you particularly.
Yeah. And you know what? It's almost like you knew what my 4th point was, which she doesn't. I didn't send her any kind of cheat notes. But the 4th thing is develop a holistic investor relationship, right? So you want to establish relationships that add value first. That's how you're going to do that. You're going to add value. You're going to listen, and you're going to suggest maybe strategies or connections for them. And then what that's going to do is you're going to stand out from others. So for example, Tessa, this is why I was going to say, here's actually where I'll pick on you. I saw somebody via LinkedIn that, oh, I had showed you. No. Now I remember what it was. It was the campaign that we're kind of doing with Worthy Futures. And I had sent you somebody. I don't want to mention the person's name, but this person had a third generation family office. And a lot of the things that it said that she invests in, or the causes that their family have given to, seem like they would just be ideal. So you might say, well, gosh, if they're ideal, then did you move forward with contacting this person? No, because this person probably has a net worth of about 500-600 million. So instead, I sent Tessa an email and I said, Tessa, what do you suggest? What's the way we could get in the door? And you suggested start with LinkedIn. Let's see what happens there. Again, I like that you said that, because if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. The important thing is you don't want to cold call that person.
Right.
And I'll share a story on that real quick. I knew this guy that used to sell computer software back when it was easy, right? Like the Clinton era. And the guy made it millions and was bought out. And I think this was around 2003, something like that, when he was bought out. And he came to me and he said, you know, Reagan, I want to get into what you're doing. And at that point, again, this takes time. It takes time when everybody thinks they can just get that investor that's worth 100 million or more. That takes time. And this guy says, I'm going to have no trouble doing what you do. I'm just going to sort of the top, because, I built a multi-million-dollar business and I got bought out. And I said to him, selling computer software in the Clinton era? I mean, come on, dude. Anybody could have made millions doing that. I said, let me guess, you did it back then by just going door to door to businesses and people didn't know what it was and bought it. And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, you're not going to be able to go door to door. You're not going to be able to call these people. And an analogy that we were with another person that has been very successful in the investment banking space. And he said to this person, it's almost like if there was a woman that was some beauty queen. You're not going to ask that girl out by finding her at a bar and asking her for her phone number. It has to be a friend that refers you to someone that's her. That's how you're going to get in the door. Well, the same thing. You're not going to get investors like this unless someone refers you to them. So let me get to the fifth point now. Invest energy attracting and providing value. What do I mean by that? Instead of wasting your time and effort reaching out to people who don't know you, again, getting to point number 4, then focus on creating value and opening doors instead. As I mentioned, you cannot cold call, right? It has to be an introduction to someone. The 6th point I want to go over is construct your position using your DNA, right? In other words, pinpoint your biggest strengths. And then what I'm also going to recommend is study both the competition and what that investor's complaints about the typical deal in your niche. So, for example, there's a lot of stuff about lithium. As you know, Tessa, I like things in alternative energy, and I go back and forth on lithium. I read up a lot on lithium, but there are people that talk badly about it. So let me get back to point number 6, and then I'll later share about lithium. So again, as I said, 6 is construct your position using what? Your DNA. What are you wanting to do? What are your strengths? Study what the competition, what the complaints might be. And again, do not get lost in the mix of what everyone is saying and doing, but differentiate in a way that investors will appreciate. I think lithium is a really good example of that. I'll get into that later. Let me conclude with the 7th point. You want to be the number one expert in your, can I call it sandbox, right? You want to go into every pitch with full confidence. And your projections, your unique value position, what that is in the industry. So your goal is to be number one in something for a very specific someone. I have mentioned before, I think you've heard me say this before, Tessa, that you want to find a niche that is so small, only you can fit in it. Last thing I want to kind of close with also that I thought, what is it that inspires you to take action? What makes you feel fulfilled? I want you to also think about this. What life experiences excite you to make a change or cause change around you? One of the things I do is I allow my responses to these questions to then fuel my vision. So whenever you're feeling frustrated, I feel that sometimes. Whenever you might feel unsure or even down, you might be, maybe it's because you might be struggling with a lack of vision. So when you have a vision of something that's kind of compelling you forward, you then begin to expand and you reinforce what you believe is possible in your life. And so let's also talk about this. What would be the goal? What would the goal look like? Well, you could just write down one thing that you see in your future that brings a smile to your face just thinking about it. Well, why are we going to do that? Because it's easy to lose sight of your vision, right? And not only that, it's easy to lose sight when emotional distractions kind of settle in. So emotional distractions, I've noticed in my life, have a way to set up camp that impacts my energy for days, right? And sometimes it can be weeks. So okay, here's what I meant to say. When you do notice that you get down, sometimes it can come from nowhere, right? And you're wondering, how do I get back to that high energy state? Well, here's what I noticed. I kind of picked up about myself the other day, that something that was helpful for me was I wanted to change my emotional state. So I had to focus on something I was grateful for. Mm-hmm. And that's something you're grateful for that you already see in the future. I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Tessa?
Oh, I just said that's very good. You definitely focusing on what you're grateful for when you're in a bad mental state makes it, you can't be in both places. I think you told me this, like you can't be both grateful and, upset at the same, like the brain, it takes the same chemicals to be in that state. So you'll be in one or the other. So being in the grateful state is better for you. You can't be in the other one at the same time.
Yeah. Think you just reminded me of something else. So another question that people have asked me before when they're raising capital is, how do I get trust, right? So let's assume someone does ask you that. Why should I trust you? Someone is questioning their trust in you on some level comes from their lack of trust in themselves. So your ability to trust is at the heart of your partnership, business or personal. So the most important person to cultivate trust first with is with yourself. If you don't trust yourself, then your discernment, your commitment, or your likelihood to then kind of follow through, you're going to struggle with that. So you want to give trust to someone else. Trust is a personal journey. And it starts the moment, it starts the moment you were born and is still in development. So from an early age, you've learned how to trust or not trust based on significant emotional events, right? Based on maybe certain conditioning or environments. So let's talk about that. I gave the goal before. Let's pick a goal on this. Affirm one thing you trust about yourself. And why are we going to do that? Because trust is a reflection of your internal confidence. So if you're struggling to give trust to others, Stop and consider where you're mistrusting maybe yourself, right? Consider how congruent you are with maybe your goals, with maybe your beliefs, maybe even your follow through. Do they match up? Are you being in integrity with what you say you're going to do? Are you being honest with yourself and others, right? The more consistent and in alignment you are with who you are, then think about it this way. The easier it is to give trust to yourself and others. I think back at Brent Long last week. What did he say? That a sale does not take place until my heart connects with your heart. That's what we're looking at. It's a connection of the heart. So if somebody says, what if they don't trust? Let's do that connection of the heart. Did you want to add something? I didn't know if you were maybe taking some mental notes or something you want to bring up, because I know you're good at that.
I think you're doing, I did. I took notes on all of the points that you did today, but I don't have any questions or thoughts yet. I just love the direction that you're going on how to trust first yourself, and then it makes other people trust you more. And often it's us, not them. It's something that we are not displaying. But I think it's great what you've talked about so far. I'm learning for sure.
Yeah. I want to do something before we wrap up. I'm going to share my screen on something. I talked a little bit about lithium, and I really am unsure. Really, even last night I was thinking and I thought, is it the wave of the future? Is it not? I don't know if you've seen the ads or YouTube stuff that Elon Musk is really promoting lithium. Have you been seeing that, Tessa, really?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen any ads myself, but I have heard the buzz about it.
Well, you know, the way the algorithms, like when I get on YouTube, the first thing that comes up is it's always about lithium, but I guess
they know exactly what you are looking at.
Yeah. So with all that being said, those 7 points, that's what's worked for me. That's what I recommend. Now, can somebody get there and not do those things? Yeah, I have an example of somebody like that. Do I know somebody that didn't do any of them and has still been doing well? Yeah, I actually have. I know one person like that. And of all things, he's raising capital to do mining in lithium. So I want to share a few things. Let me share my screen to show this. Yesterday, I was coming up with what the topic was going to be. I literally it was late last night, and I thought, okay, I've got something. I'll send it to Tessa and say, this is the title. So I thought I'd Google the title, 7 capital raising strategies to help you get the right investors, just like I wrote it. And I thought, oh my goodness, there's probably going to be umpteen articles on this. I don't want to do something that people could just Google and find the answers, because if not, I wouldn't have picked the topic. Well, you're not going to find the answers I gave you. You Google this, look at the first thing comes up, get a business loan, crowdfunding, find angel investors, find personal contacts. They don't get into this. I then thought, what about this? What's the most popular method? Friends and family. Again, they get into crowdfunding. They're not really answering the question. How do I find investors to raise capital? Even here, they're not okay, but they're not getting into this. Then I looked, okay, here's something on Forbes. Well, I read this article, and although everything they said is true, I'm not going to disagree with it. They didn't get into real principles on how to get into it. They say, start with your why, which is, again, I'm not putting that down. That's important. Know your market, know your needs. That they're not getting into this, right? I started to look at this. Don't be desperate. Have a really good story to tell. And as you know, I even have a strategy on how you put together a pitch deck. Well, a couple of months ago, I'm going to share my screen to show this as well. I got an invitation from a friend of mine that said, Reagan, can you come to this event? It's a free lunch. It's going to be at Fleming Steakhouse. Please come. I've got this friend of mine. I used to play hockey with him. This friend of mine that invited me was a pro hockey player. And he knew this guy that played pro hockey for about a year. And it's this gentleman, Scott Eldridge. So he's like, why don't you go? It's about lithium. And I thought, okay, fine. So I went. And when I went there was somebody there, and I really can't mention his name, but he used to be the CFO of this really, really large financial institution that's on Wall Street. And this guy winters in Florida, lives mostly in summers in New York. Again, this was February. And he said to me, Reagan, you'd have to be an idiot to invest in this. And I said, yeah, but their stock is at 0.25. Why would you not want to? Think about it. If it goes up to $1, you got a 4-time return on investment. He said, I'm not investing in this crap. Then he sends me an email 2-3 days later. Again, he's a retired former CFO. So he said, I took time to investigate this. I looked at the numbers. I looked at how many people are extracting. There's a difference in mining, whether you're mining or extracting. People that are extracting lithium, people that are mining lithium. And I think what he was saying was, or not, I think what he was saying is there's so many people out there mining for lithium. It's just the whole supply and demand. And he said to me, I never want to use the word never, but I am in this case. It'll never go up against over 0.25. Never, ever, ever. Now, this guy also mentioned his burn rate is $80,000 a month. So you think it's never going to get there. And I thought, okay, you've convinced me. And then I even took it a step further about a month after that. And I said, do you know that golf carts are all lithium now? All the new golf carts they're doing is lithium. Even new electric cars, they're doing them with lithium batteries. I go, so what do you have to say about that? And he said, Reagan, I've done the numbers. I don't care how many people drive or use golf carts and use lithium. The market is so small, it'll never go up. Well, yesterday, an email came in from Scott Eldridge, and look at this company. They just got a $2 million put in, and their stock has gone up to 0.30. I thought it was impossible. I've got to tell you, I got to hand it to this guy. He did everything wrong. He didn't present right. He didn't do all the things that I teach. And he's doing well in an industry that's tough. I got to hand it to the guy. I'm actually going to reach out to him and maybe have him on here because that's impressive. It really is. They're not making a profit. They got a burn rate of $80,000 a month. I forgot if it was 80 or 90,000, something like that. That's a lot of money that's coming out every month. And this guy's from Vancouver, Canada, and he got on a plane and flew to Miami to present. And then the next day, he said to me he was going to the other coast and was going to be presenting at the Capitol Grill in Naples. And then he was going to go up to Sarasota. I mean, this guy's working hard. So what's the difference? He may not be doing all the right strategies, or at least the ones I teach. But here's what he's doing. He's sowing a lot of seeds.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Building
literally out. Yeah, exactly. If he's doing any of them, he's doing one of the things that I say. But he's talking to a lot of people. So that's that. I just want to mention that I am going to reach out to this gentleman if he's available. I mean, the guy's busy presenting in front of high net worth investors, but I want to have him come in and talk because he may not have the strategies, so-called strategies, but he's real, he's authentic, and he's confident in what he's presenting. And it's making me now think twice about lithium. So, Tessa, what are your thoughts on lithium? What do you think? Does this make you think differently on lithium as well?
It does. It does make me think differently on lithium for sure. You know, honestly, it's been presented as such a dangerous source. So that's the part that I think they've put into our head, like you do have a lithium battery on the airplane, you know. So I think of it as a dangerous, volatile but strong is what I have always thought of it.
I
But,
know. I was thinking that too when I read that all golf carts are now, all the new, like 2024, they're all lithium. And I thought, oh man, you're driving and there's fire everywhere, driving around, catching on fire. I don't know about that. So no, that's the only thing. The question is, do those big batteries that are in the cars, is there a risk of fire?
right, right. But there's a whole industry in that, testing the batteries, so there's people that are trying to head that off so that it can be used as a source. So it does make me think though, and I think that's what I love about your shows is it really challenges us to think of things in a new way and maybe look ahead more futuristically,
Yes,
hence the name of the show, the Futurist Mindset. Like, what does this look like years to come from now, and be ahead of that.
Be ahead of that curve. You're right.
Yes.
Well, that is it. Go ahead.
Awesome. Yes, I'll just remind everybody how to follow you. So we go live on the Futurist Mindset Show every Friday at noon Eastern time. And if you'd like to get notifications when we go live, you can hit the bell or reach out to us and we can let you know when we launch these. And we'd love to have you in the audience. We are live here. You can chat with us. We'll chat back to you. So if you have any questions or topics that you would like Reagan to cover, feel free to put it over in the chat on YouTube, and we'll see you all next week. Have a blessed week, everyone.